Capcom is on a generational run this year. They've released one of the most successful Resident Evils of all time. Look at this Resident Evil Requiem, baby. We love it. Honestly, for me, it's a 7.5 out of 10. It's not really what I would call the best Resident Evil today, but I love it for what it's worth. Seeing Leon really get his chance to shine in a title where he hasn't really been in a sequel since six. It's been great for the most part. I think Grace is a fantastic character who will most certainly go the way of Billy Cohen, Sheva Alomar, and Helena Harper. They've been doing really good. Capcom's released some bangers. They've released Resident Evil Requiem to 7 million sales in less than 2 months. They released Dead Space, everyone's favorite new IP, Pragmata, to 1 million sales. Though that doesn't make the stupid business suits who literally have the lifeblood of Capcom in their hands. 1 million sales in a week or two is crazy. How can you not be happy with that? And then there's Monster Hunter Stories 3. Never been into Monster Hunter Stories. I'm a big fan of killing monsters, not being buddy with them. And then there's, of course, Onimusha Way of the Sword. Capcom's been doing really good. If you had said this was the company from 10 years ago that released Umbrella Corps and Street Fighter V, I probably would have laughed in your face. But that's not really what today's video is about. What I'm really talking about, that is, of course, going to be talking about and discussing their live action adaptations they'll be doing this year, which is, of course, Resident Evil's live action by Zack Krager. I believe will be fun and good. And then the one I think will surprise everyone, that is the Street Fighter live action. And man, am I kind of looking forward to the Street Fighter. The thing with a lot of live action games is they have to understand what they're adapting. Sonic understands it really well, adding real life elements but keeping the core of what makes Sonic uh, there. And I think that's the big thing. People complaining about Street Fighter. It looks like crap, dude. Street Fighter needs to lean into the camp. I don't want it to be what is ultimately going to be Mortal Kombat 2. I think my biggest issue with Mortal Kombat 2 is it looks way too serious. You know what? The problem with the Mortal Kombat movies is they don't really they 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 add a whole bunch of other stuff in there instead of really focusing on the tournament. It seems like they're kind of focusing on the tournament, but ultimately I just have real big issues with like them not making the focus the tournament and then adding background story in the mix to really help keep it level headed. But I think Street Fighter movie and Resident Evil movie are going to be fine. I know people want to complain. Twitch, yeah, I just want my characters to be in live action. Do you really want Leon for the third time being nothing like Leon? Do you really want Jill to be nothing like Jill? Do you really want Claire, Chris, nothing like their characters? Because that's essentially what we've gotten, except for 1 or 2 instances. Probably the rare instances where the characters were like themselves is surprisingly Sienna Gilroy's Jill Valentine in Apocalypse. That's probably the closest we've ever got to a decent live action adaptation of characters. And I would say the Carlos O'Defiers, Carlos was pretty spot on. Did you also know that the guy who played Scud Farkas in A Christmas Story was playing Nikolai, that Nikolai from Resident Evil 3? You probably wouldn't have. But the problem is when we get these characters in sort of Resident Evil live action, they're nothing like our characters at all. They're nothing like the characters we all grow up with, the characters we all know and love. They're, as I call them, dollar store brand cheap imitations of the characters we all know and love. Just look at everything after Apocalypse. How is that Claire? How is that Chris? What do you mean that's Barry? Nothing is Kevin Durant. I love Kevin. Durant. He is fantastic. Uh, Nothing like the characters we all know and love, and they just throw them in there and expect us to enjoy the slot. But to be fair, those six or whatever Resident Evil movies did make a lot of money. But I'm very cautiously optimistic for what Zack Krager is doing, what he's creating, what he is cooking, because if Weapons and Barbarian are any indication of what he's going to be doing, then I'm excited for it. My guy started with the whitest kid you know, and look at him now. Already got Oscar wins under his belt, making horror feel like horror. And you can probably make the argument that Weapons sort of falls apart at the end. My second watch through it, I was like, yeah, it kind of doesn't seem like it's that great. Still, probably a 7 out of 10 in my book. But Barbarian, I would always say, is the closest we've ever gotten to a live action Resident Evil. Also, it's got my favorite guy who's going to die in a horror movie, Justin Long. I would love Justin Long to be in the Resident Evil movie, even if it's like a quick cameo and he just gets taken out instantly. Because is it really a horror movie if Justin Long doesn't die or doesn't lose someone important to him in the movie? Looking at you, drag me to hell. But I'm very cautiously optimistic for what Krager is going to do with the live action Resident Evil. My biggest thing I've always said is if it just takes a sort of outbreak, Resident Evil outbreak style approach and just throws random characters in the mix in Raccoon City, I think they do really well, and I think it's going to do really well. Now, the other live action attempt that Capcom is doing this year is Street Fighter. And I think it's going to be fun. I am looking forward to it. It understands the assignment. It understands that it's supposed to be cheesy and campy. Though I'm very questionable about the Bison actor. I love him and what he does, but is he really going to have a dominating presence as Bison? Still think he's a red herring. I really am looking forward to what they're going to be working on. I'm excited for what they will cook, what they will create. I think the live action this might be the one time a Resident Evil live action is good. But Street Fighter I think is going to be a fun watch. I think people are going to walk away from it thinking, "Wow, that really was Street Fighter." And if you're expecting Oscar-worthy performance from a live action video game adaptation, you're in the wrong genre, my friend. I think it's going to be good. It understands the assignment. I really like the choices for the actors, even if some are questionable. I think uh, it's going to be really good. I feel like Street Fighter as a franchise has had some good or bad moments. Just look at the release of Five and how bad that was done. But to see it come so far, yeah, I'm excited for it. I think Street Fighter is going to be one of those sleeper hits for the live action video game genre. And I think Resident Evil will be good too. You gotta have faith in the Krager man. He is one of the whitest kids you know, and I think that says a lot about where he came from, doing skits about President Abraham Lincoln and uh, being being a doctor, man. Like, I love it. I'm excited for it. I think Street Fighter is gonna be great. I think we're all gonna come for it thinking, yeah, that's how you do Street Fighter. I don't think Mortal Kombat 2 is gonna be good. I love Mortal Kombat, one of my favorite fighting franchises. I used to be a very nasty Liu Kang, but not so anymore. I'm washed. I think it's gonna be bad. I think Street Fighter and Resident Evil are gonna be two decent live action adaptations. I think Capcom's really in their generational run. I think Onimusha's gonna be great. I think we're gonna really see some good stuff this year. But what do you guys think? You excited for the live action adaptations of Resident Evil? You excited for the live action adaptation of Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat? What is really tickling your fancy this year? And it doesn't have to be live action adaptations. What are you excited for gaming wise? Let me know down